The train pulled away from Stillwater Station on a Thursday afternoon in September 1891. And when the last car disappeared around the bend where the cottonwoods grew thick along the creek, Thea Morrison stood alone on the platform with 2 children and a wooden trunk that had seen better days. She did not cry. She had used up her tears somewhere between Boston and Chicago, in the narrow berth of a sleeping car where the children could not see her face. Now there was only the work of living, and Thea Morrison had always been good at work. The platform was empty except for dust. Golden dust that rose in slow spirals when the wind came down off the mountains, settling on everything: the bench, the railing, the faded sign that read Stillwater in letters that had once been red. Thea could taste it. Grit between her teeth. The taste of a new life or the end of an old one. She was not yet sure which. "Mama." Finn's voice was small. He was 5 years old and frightened of everything since his father died. Big spaces, loud noises, men with beards, the dark. "Mama, where is he?" Thea knelt in front of her son, brushing the travel dust from his jacket. The jacket had belonged to another boy, once a neighbor's son in Boston, who had outgrown it. Thea had mended the elbows twice. "Mr. Dalton will be here soon, sweetheart. The train was early, that's all." It was not the truth. The train had been 2 hours late. But some lies were necessary when you were 5 years old and afraid. Beside them, Willa said nothing. 7 years old, dark eyes that saw too much, and a mouth that had stopped speaking the day her father died in the ironworks. 14 months of silence. Doctors in Boston had called it shock. Thea called it grief. The girl carried a small slate board tied to her belt with twine, and on it she had written in careful chalk letters, "Is he coming?" Thea touched her daughter's face. "Yes, baby. He's coming." Another lie. But this one Thea needed to believe herself. The door to the station office creaked open. A woman stepped out, 65 if she was a day, wearing an apron stained with axle grease and what might have been coffee. Her hair was steel gray, pulled back in a knot so tight it lifted her eyebrows. She looked at Thea the way a person looks at a lost dog, with pity, but not enough pity to bring it inside. "You're the one waiting for Dalton, I expect." Thea stood, smoothed her skirt, lifted her chin the way her mother had taught her. "Never let them see you beg." "I am. My name is Thea Morrison. Mr. Dalton and I corresponded. He asked me to come." The woman wiped her hands on her apron. It did not help. "Name's Clara Shipley. I run this station. Have for 20 years. She paused, looked at the children, looked back at Thea. "Thomas Dalton's been dead 3 weeks, Mrs. Morrison. Pneumonia took him fast. He's buried up on the hill behind the Methodist church." The world did not end when Clara Shipley said those words. The sun kept shining. The wind kept blowing. Somewhere far off, a crow called. Thea heard all of it with perfect clarity, as if her ears had suddenly become sharper, as if her body understood that she needed to pay attention to every detail, because the details were all she had left. "I see," Thea said. Her voice came from somewhere outside herself, calm, practical. "Did he leave a will?" "House went to the bank. He owed more than it was worth." "I see. You came all the way from Boston." "I did." Clara Shipley shook her head slowly, not unkindly. just the way a person shakes their head at the weather, or the price of flour or any other fact of life that cannot be changed. Well then, I expect you'll be needing the next train out. When does it come? Saturday morning, day after tomorrow. 2 days. Thea had $6.40 in her purse. The trunk held everything she owned. 2 dresses, a Bible that had been her mother's, a wooden horse her late husband had carved for Finn in the letters, 12 letters from Thomas Dalton Blacksmith of Stillwater, Montana, who had needed a wife and promised a home. 12 letters written in a careful hand that spoke of mountains and clean air, and a future that would be better than the past. All of it lies, apparently, or death, which amounted to the same thing. Mrs. Morrison. Clara's voice was gentler now. You got people back in Boston. Someone who can wire you money for the fare. No. No family at all. No, ma'am. Clara Shipley looked at Thea Morrison for a long moment. Really looked. Saw a woman of 28 with good posture and worn gloves and eyes that had learned not to ask for help, because help did not come. Saw 2 children, one silent and one frightened, both too thin. Saw a trunk with a broken latch held shut with rope. There's a storage room back of the station office, Clara said finally. Hasn't been used since the railroad inspector stopped coming through. It's got a cot and a stove. You can stay there tonight, maybe tomorrow, till you figure out what's next. I can pay. I didn't ask for payment. I don't take charity. Didn't offer it. You'll work for your keep. There's floors need sweeping. Stove needs blacking. Windows need washing. Can you do that? Thea's hands were already rough from work, from scrubbing other people's stoops in Boston, from taking in laundry when the stoop work dried up, from 14 months of doing whatever it took to keep her children fed. Yes, ma'am, I can do that. Then we got an arrangement. Go on inside. Second door on the left. I'll bring you some supper directly. Thea did not say thank you. She had learned in Boston that thank you was a word that made people uncomfortable when they had done you a kindness they did not quite want to claim. Instead, she picked up one end of the trunk. Willa took the other. Between them, they dragged it across the platform, while Finn followed behind, his small hand twisted in his mother's skirt. The storage room was exactly what Clara had promised. A cot with a thin mattress. A pot-bellied stove that had not been lit in months. A window so dirty you could barely see through it. But it had a door that closed. 4 walls. A roof that did not leak. Thea set the children on the cot and went back out to thank Clara Shipley. But the old woman had already gone back into her office. Through the grimy window, Thea could see her bent over a ledger, writing in the careful script of someone who had learned to keep accounts because no one else would do it for her. That night, after the children were asleep, Thea opened the trunk to take inventory. She had done this 3 times since leaving Boston, but she did it again. 2 dresses. Check. The Bible. Check. The wooden horse. Check. The letters from Thomas Dalton. Check. And there, tucked beneath her second dress, something she had not packed. An envelope. Heavy paper. Her name written across it in an unfamiliar hand. Thea's fingers shook as she opened it. Inside, $23 in bills and coins. More money than she had seen in one place since Henry Morrison had fallen into the furnace at the ironworks. and left her with nothing but his debts. And a letter. Mrs. Morrison, I am Sarah Dalton's sister to Thomas. My brother passed from this life on the 19th of August. He was ill many months before. The consumption took him slow. I must confess a grave sin. The letters you received were not written by my brother's hand. Thomas lost the strength to write last winter. I wrote them in his stead, hoping to find him a companion in his final months. It was wrong of me. I see that now. By the time you read this, you will have arrived in Stillwater and learned the truth. I do not expect your forgiveness. I enclose what money I have. It is not enough to repay the cost of your journey, but it is all I possess. If you choose to return to Boston, I will understand. If you choose to stay, please know that I will help you in any way I can. The fault is mine alone. With deepest regret, Sarah Dalton Thea read the letter twice. Then she folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope with the money. She did not cry. There was no point. She had come to Montana on a lie. She could go back to Boston on that same lie, or she could stay and see what truth might be built on such a foundation. She looked at her children. Finn curled on his side thumb in his mouth, though she had tried to break him of the habit. Willa lying straight as a board, hands folded on her chest like a little corpse. Both of them breathing. Both of them alive. In Boston, they had been dying. Slowly, quietly, the way the poor die in cities. Not enough food. Not enough heat. Not enough hope. Thea had watched her daughter stop speaking and her son start waking with nightmares, and she had known that if something did not change, she would lose them both. Montana was not the change she had imagined, but it was change. She blew out the lamp and lay down on the floor beside the cot. The children needed the mattress more than she did. Through the window, she could see stars, more stars than existed in the Boston sky, where smoke and gaslight stole them away. Here they were thick as flour dust, impossible to count. Thea closed her eyes and didn't pray. God had not listened in Boston. She did not expect him to start listening in Montana. The next 3 days taught Thea Morrison the geography of disappointment. She swept Clara Shipley's floors and learned that Stillwater had 323 souls, most of whom worked the copper mines or ran cattle or serviced the men who did. She blacked the stove and learned that Thomas Dalton had died owing money to half the town, the general store, the feed and grain, the blacksmith, who had once been his partner. She washed the windows and learned that mail-order brides were common as prairie grass in Montana, and just as expendable. They come out here thinking it's gonna be romantic, Clara said on the second day. She was showing Thea how to work the telegraph key, though Thea had not asked to learn. Thinking some handsome rancher's gonna sweep them off their feet. Then they get here and find out Montana winters last 9 months. And men who live alone that long forget how to talk to women, and romance is just another word for work. Did you come as a mail-order bride? Thea asked. Clara's hands stilled on the telegraph key. I did. 1871. Man named Benjamin Shipley put an advertisement in an Ohio newspaper. Said he needed a wife. I was 43 years old. Had 2 grown sons. Figured I had nothing to lose. What happened? He took one look at me and said he'd ordered a young woman, not a grandmother. Rode off and left me standing on this very platform. Clara resumed tapping out her message. So I stayed. Found work with the railroad. Raised my boys here. Buried them both in the cholera outbreak of '79. Been running this station ever since. You never married. Never saw the point. Marriage is a contract. I learned to make my own contracts." She finished her message and turned to face Thea. "You know what you're going to do yet. I'm going to find Sarah Dalton. And then I'm going to ask her to help me find work. Clara studied her. You're not going back to Boston." It was not a question. "There's nothing in Boston for me." "There's nothing in Stillwater either, Mrs. Morrison. Not for a woman with 2 children and no husband." "Then I'll make something." Clara smiled. It was the first time Thea had seen her smile. "You might just survive this place after all." On the 3rd day, Thea put on her better dress, the one that was not quite as faded, and left the children in Clara's care. Willa wrote on her slate, "Where are you going?" Thea kissed her forehead and did not answer. The address in Sarah Dalton's letter led her to a small house at the edge of town, where the road turned to mud and the buildings gave way to scrub grass and sky. The house was adobe low and weathered with a roof that sagged in the middle. Chickens scratched in the yard. A line of laundry hung motionless in the still air. Thea knocked. No answer. She knocked again. The door opened. A woman stood there, young, maybe 24, with red-rimmed eyes and hands that twisted in her apron. She looked at Thea, and her face went white. "Mrs. Morrison. Miss Dalton." They stood facing each other across the threshold. Sarah Dalton was small bird-boned with her brother's dark hair and a mouth that looked like it had forgotten how to smile. She wore a dress that had been mended so many times the original fabric was hard to identify. "I got your letter," Thea said. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know it don't help saying it, but may I come in?" Sarah stepped back. The house was one room, a bed in the corner, a table with 2 chairs, a stove. That was all. On the wall hung a photograph of a man who must have been Thomas Dalton, same dark hair, same serious mouth. "Sit down," Sarah said. "Please. Can I get you coffee? I don't have much, but I don't want coffee. I want the truth." Sarah sat down across from Thea. Her hands were still twisting in her apron, wringing it like wet laundry. "Thomas got sick last winter. The doctor said it was consumption. Said he had maybe 6 months. Thomas, he was alone. Had been since his wife died in childbirth 10 years back. The baby died too. He never got over it. Never wanted to remarry. But when he knew he was dying, he said he didn't want to die alone. So you wrote to me." "I wrote to 5 women. You were the only one who answered." Thea absorbed this. She was not even the first choice. She was the only choice. "The letters," Sarah continued, her voice breaking. "Thomas couldn't write them himself. His hands shook too bad. So I wrote what he told me to write. At first. But then he got worse, and he couldn't talk much, and I kept writing. I didn't know what else to do. I thought if I could just find someone who would come, someone who would sit with him at the end. He died before I arrived." "Yes. And you said nothing." "I tried. I wrote you 3 times. Sent the letters to Boston. But you'd already left." Thea believed her. It was there in the girl's face, the shame, the grief, the desperation of someone who had done wrong for the right reasons and found herself drowning in the consequences. "I don't have money to pay you back," Sarah said. "I gave you everything I had. The house Thomas's house, the bank took it for his debts. I'm living on charity myself. Mrs. Hutchins, she lets me do laundry in exchange for this place. But it's only temporary. She's got a nephew coming in the spring who needs it." Thea stood, walked to the window. Outside, the chickens were still scratching. The laundry was still hanging. The world was still turning indifferent to the fact that two women sat in a one-room house discussing the ruins of their lives. "I'm not going to tell the sheriff," Thea said. Sarah looked up hopeful and terrified at once. "You're not—" "No, because you did give me something." "I did. You gave me a reason to leave Boston. In Boston, I was dying too. Different than your brother, but dying just the same. Here, at least, I might live. What will you do?" "I'm going to find work, and you're going to help me." Sarah stood. Yes, of course. Anything. I'll ask around. Mrs. Hutchins might know someone, or the church. Pastor Winthrop's wife was a mail-order bride herself back in the day. She might— Sarah. The girl stopped. Thea turned from the window to face her. "I need you to understand something. I didn't come here looking for a husband. I came here looking for a contract, room and board in exchange for work. That's all I wanted. That's all I want now. Can you help me find that?" "I'll try." "Then we're square." It was not forgiveness, but it was close enough. Thea walked back to the station through the center of Stillwater, because there was no other route. The town was laid out in a simple grid, 2 streets running east-west, 2 running north-south, and a handful of buildings at the crossroads. General store, saloon, hotel, church, livery. That was civilization in Montana. She tried the hotel first. Mackey's Hotel and Saloon, according to the sign. A 2-story building with paint that had once been white. Thea climbed the steps and pushed open the door. Inside the lobby smelled of tobacco smoke and whiskey and something else. The particular odor of men who worked hard and bathed seldom. A clerk stood behind the desk, thin as a whip with a mustache that drooped past his chin. Behind him in the archway that led to the saloon, a larger man appeared. 60, maybe older, with silver hair and a belly that spoke of prosperity. He wore a vest with a watch chain. His boots were polished. "Help you?" the clerk asked. "I'm looking for work," Thea said. The man with the silver hair stepped forward. "What kind of work?" "Laundry, cleaning, mending, anything honest." The man looked her over, slowly, starting at her worn boots and traveling up to her face. When his eyes met hers, they were cold and calculating. "You're the Morrison woman, the one waiting for Dalton." "I'm Mrs. Morrison, yes. Dalton's dead." "I'm aware. So what are you still doing in Stillwater?" "Looking for work, as I said." The man smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "I'm Vernon Mackey. I own this hotel. I might have work for you, serving drinks in the saloon. Tips can be good if you're friendly to the customers." Thea understood exactly what kind of friendly he meant. "Thank you, no. Suit yourself. But that's the only work I've got for a woman in your position. My position? Alone, no husband, 2 children. You're what they call a hard case, Mrs. Morrison. People around here don't much like hard cases. Thea walked out without another word. She tried the general store next. The owner, a nervous man named Brenner, with ink-stained fingers, listened to her request and shook his head before she finished speaking. Can't help you. Don't need extra help. I could work for room and board. I don't need wages. Lady, I don't care if you'd work for free. I've got a wife. She wouldn't like me hiring a woman like you. A woman like me, a mail-order bride, no offense, but people talk. And a woman who'd come all this way for a man she never met well. It don't look right. Thea's hands clenched at her sides. My children need to eat. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you got on that train. He turned back to his ledger. We're done here. The laundry, the feed store, the seamstress. The answer was the same everywhere. No work, no charity, no help. By the time Thea returned to the station, the sun was setting and her feet hurt. And she had learned what she suspected all along, that Montana was no different from Boston. The poor were still poor. The desperate were still desperate. And a woman alone was still a woman alone, no matter how many mountains surrounded her. Clara took one look at her face and poured her coffee without asking. No luck. No luck. Figured as much. Stillwater's not a kind town. Can't afford to be. Thea drank the coffee. It was bitter and strong and exactly what she needed. How long can I stay in your storage room? Long as you need. But Mrs. Morrison, Thea, I gotta tell you something. What? There's talk already. About you. About the children. Vernon Mackey, he's been saying things. What kind of things? That you're a bad woman. That you came here to trap Dalton. That now you're looking to trap some other man. Clara paused. He's got a lot of sway in this town. Owns half the buildings. Holds notes on the other half. If he decides you're trouble, he'll make sure nobody helps you. Why would he care? Because Dalton owed him money. And because men like Vernon Mackey don't like being shown up. Shown up how? You're still here. You didn't run. That bothers him. Thea set down her cup. Through the window, she could see the platform where she had stood 4 days ago. It looked the same. Felt different. I'm not running. I know that. But Mackey doesn't believe it yet. And when he does, when he really believes you mean to stay, he'll do something about it. Let him. Clara smiled. You're tougher than you look, Thea Morrison. I've had practice. That night, Thea sat on the station platform with her children. Willa leaned against her side. Finn sat in her lap. The stars were coming out one by one like candles being lit in a vast, dark room. Mama, Finn whispered. I'm hungry. Thea had a heel of bread left from Clara's charity. She broke it in half, gave each child a piece, kept none for herself. Eat slow, baby. Make it last. She watched them eat, watched Willa chew carefully, making each bite last as long as possible. Watched Finn try to do the same and fail, cramming the bread into his mouth and swallowing it almost whole. When they finished, Finn looked up at her with those enormous eyes. Henry's eyes, though, she tried not to think about that. Is there more tomorrow? Promise. Thea kissed the top of his head. He smelled like train smoke and little boy sweat. Promise, it was another lie. But she was getting good at those. The sound of boots on wood made her turn. A man was walking up the platform, tall, maybe 40. Hat pulled low. He moved like someone who worked with his body. Deliberate, economical, no wasted motion. He stopped a few feet away. "Ma'am, sir, you're new to Stillwater." It wasn't a question. "I arrived Thursday. Waiting for someone." "No." The man looked at the children, at the empty platform, at Thea's worn dress and tired face. He had gray eyes, she noticed, the kind of gray that made you think of winter skies. "You got a place to stay? We're managing." Didn't ask if you were managing. Asked if you had a place. Thea's spine stiffened. "That's not your concern." "No, ma'am, it's not." He touched the brim of his hat. Started to turn away. Then stopped. "But Mackey's coming." "What?" "Vernon Mackey owns the hotel. He's walking this way with the sheriff. Saw them leaving the saloon as I rode past." Thea stood. Put Finn behind her. Willa moved to stand at her other side, small hand gripping her mother's skirt. "Why are you telling me this?" The man looked at her for a long moment. "Because I know what it looks like when someone's got nowhere to run. And because those children don't deserve whatever Mackey's about to do." Then he stepped back into the shadows beside the station house and waited. Vernon Mackey appeared first, walking up the middle of the street like he owned it, which Thea supposed he mostly did. Behind him came a man wearing a tin star short heavy with the red face of someone who drank too much. They stopped at the bottom of the platform steps. "Mrs. Morrison," Mackey said. "Still here, I see." "Still here. This is Sheriff Drummond. He has some questions for you." The sheriff cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we've had reports that you're living in the station storage room without proper authorization. Clara Shipley authorized it. Mrs. Shipley doesn't own this station. The railroad does, and the railroad has rules about who can stay on their property. I'm working for my keep. That's not the same as paying rent." Mackey smiled. "Sheriff's just doing his job, Mrs. Morrison. Nothing personal. But we can't have vagrants camping out in public buildings. Bad for the town's reputation." Thea's hands clenched. "My children have nowhere else to go." "Then I suggest you get on the morning train." "I don't have money for tickets." "That," Mackey said, "is not my problem." The tall man stepped out of the shadows. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but it carried. "It's about to be your problem, Vernon." Mackey turned. His smile faltered. "Brennan, this doesn't concern you." "Maybe not. But I'm making it my concern." "Why would you do that?" "Because she needs work, and I need a housekeeper." Thea stared at the man Brennan. He did not look at her. He kept his eyes on Mackey. "A housekeeper," Mackey said. "That's what you're calling it?" "That's what it is." "Mrs. Morrison, you know anything about cooking, mending, general housework?" Thea's voice came from somewhere far away. "Yes." "Good. $12 a month, room and board included. Starts tonight." "Now wait just a minute," Mackey started. "We done here, Sheriff?" Brennan asked. Sheriff Drummond looked between the two men, licked his lips. "Guess so." Then Mrs. Morrison's coming with me. Mackie's face had gone the color of old meat. You're making a mistake, Brennan. Won't be my first. People will talk. Let them talk. Brennan finally looked at Thea. His gray eyes were steady. Ma'am, I've got a wagon around the side. I'll help you with your trunk. Thea did not move. Every instinct she had learned in 14 months of widowhood was screaming at her. Do not trust strange men. Do not get in wagons. Do not believe in kindness that comes without a price. But her children were hungry. And Vernon Mackey was waiting for her to fail. I want a written contract, she heard herself say, stating the terms, the wage, the work, and my right to leave at any time. Brennan nodded. Fair enough. And separate quarters for me and the children. Got a spare room, it's yours. I don't take charity, Mr. Brennan. Didn't offer it. I need a housekeeper. You need work. That's business. Thea looked down at her children. Finn was holding her skirt with both hands now. Willa had taken out her slate and written, Is he good? Thea did not know. She did not know anything about this man except that he had stood between her and Vernon Mackey when he had no reason to, and that his eyes were gray and tired and not unkind. Sometimes that was enough. All right, she said. We'll come. Brennan touched his hat brim. I'll get the wagon. He disappeared around the building. Vernon Mackey stood in the street watching her with an expression she could not read. You're making a mistake, Mrs. Morrison. Maybe, but it's mine to make. Cole Brennan lives 8 miles from town, isolated, no neighbors close by. You'll be alone out there with him. I'll be working for him. There's a difference. Not in the eyes of this town there isn't. Clara Shipley appeared in the doorway of the station. She had been listening. Vernon, you want to tell Mrs. Morrison why you're really angry. Want to tell her about the money Thomas Dalton owed you. $300, wasn't it? And you were hoping to collect it by some means or another. Mackey's jaw tightened. That's slander, Clara. It's arithmetic. Now get off my platform. The wagon appeared. It was old, but well-maintained. 2 horses in harness, both healthy-looking. Brennan climbed down and picked up Thea's trunk like it weighed nothing. Willa and Finn climbed into the wagon bed without being told. Thea started to climb up after them, but Brennan offered his hand. She took it. His palm was rough warm. He let go the instant her feet touched the wagon bed. She noticed that. Thank you, she said to Clara. Don't thank me yet. You might be back here in a week. I might. But I don't think you will. Brennan climbed onto the driver's bench, picked up the reins. The wagon rolled forward away from the station, away from Vernon Mackey's cold eyes, away from Stillwater and its narrow streets and narrower minds. Thea sat with her children and did not look back. They rode in silence. The road climbed gradually following a creek that ran clear over smooth stones. The sun was almost down now. The mountains in the distance had turned purple. The air smelled like sage and something else, pine maybe, or freedom. Thea could not tell the difference anymore. After a while, Finn whispered, Mama, I'm scared. Thea pulled him close. I know, baby. Is the man going to hurt us? No. How do you know? Because I don't. Thea thought. Because this might be the worst decision I've ever made. Because I'm risking everything on the judgment of a stranger because I have no other choice. But what she said was, because some people are good Finn. Not everyone, but some. The ranch appeared as they came over a rise. It was not large. A low house made of logs, a barn, a corral, a chicken coop. Everything neat and square and practical. No wasted space. No decoration. Just the necessities of life organized by someone who understood how to survive alone. Brennan stopped the wagon in front of the house. "Wait here." He went inside. A lamp flickered to life. Then another. Through the window, Thea could see him moving around, picking things up, putting them away, making room. He came back out. All right. He helped Willa down first, then Finn, then offered his hand to Thea again. This time she almost refused, but her legs were stiff from the ride, and pride had its limits. Inside the house was clean, sparse but clean. A table with 2 chairs, a stove, shelves with a few books, a single cup hanging from a nail, a pot, a pan. The belongings of a man who had lived alone for a long time and stopped buying things he did not need. "Spare rooms through there," Brennan said, pointing to a door. "Bed's big enough for all 3 of you. I'll sleep in the barn." "You don't have to. Ma'am, we're going to be living under the same roof. People are going to talk no matter what we do. But I'm not giving them any more reason than necessary." He was right. Thea knew he was right. "There's flour in the barrel," he continued. "Salt pork in the smokehouse. Eggs in the basket by the door. Coffee on the shelf. You use what you need. Mr. Brennan. Cole. You can call me Cole. Cole, I need that contract, before anything else. I need it in writing." He nodded, went to the shelf, came back with paper and a pencil. "You write it," he said. "I'll sign it." Thea took the paper. Her hands were shaking slightly, but she made them steady. She wrote, "Agreement between Cole Brennan and Thea Morrison. Mrs. Morrison agrees to provide housekeeping services including cooking, cleaning, mending, and general household maintenance. Mr. Brennan agrees to provide room and board for Mrs. Morrison and her 2 children, plus wages of $12 per month payable on the 1st. Either party may terminate this agreement with 1 week's notice. Sign this 14th day of September, 1891. She signed her name, pushed the paper across the table. Cole read it, signed without hesitation. "There. That's done." He stood, picked up his hat. "I'll be in the barn if you need anything. Door don't lock, but you can push the table against it if it makes you feel safer." Then he was gone. The door closed behind him. Thea stood in the center of the room with her children, and a signed contract, and the smell of coffee and the beginning of something she did not yet have a name for. Willa tugged her sleeve, held up her slate. "Are we safe?" Thea knelt down, looked her daughter in the eye. "I don't know yet, baby, but we're not hungry, and we're not cold, and tomorrow we'll see what comes next." It was not a promise, but it was hope. And for tonight, hope was enough. Thea woke before dawn to the sound of roosters. For a moment, she did not know where she was. Not Boston, not the storage room behind the station. Somewhere else. Somewhere that smelled like wood smoke and clean straw and coffee. The ranch. Cole Brennan's ranch. She sat up carefully, trying not to wake the children. Through the single window, she could see the sky beginning to lighten, not the gray-yellow of a Boston dawn, but something clearer, colder. The kind of light that came before the sun in places where the air was thin. Beside her, Finn and Willa slept tangled together like puppies. Finn's thumb had found its way to his mouth again. Willa's slate had fallen to the floor, the chalk still clutched in her small fist. Thea dressed quickly. The same dress she had worn yesterday. The same dress she had worn for 4 days. She would need to wash it soon. Wash everything. But first, there was work to do. She found Cole in the barn forking hay to the horses. He looked up when she entered, but did not stop working. "Morning." "Morning." Thea folded her hands in front of her apron. "I wasn't sure when you wanted breakfast." "Whenever it's ready. I'm not particular. Is there anything you don't eat? If it's food, I'll eat it." He went back to his work. Thea watched him for a moment, the economical way he moved, the way he seemed to know exactly how much hay each horse needed without measuring. A man who had done this so many times, it had become muscle memory. "Mr. Brennan Cole, I want to be clear about something." He stopped, leaned on the pitchfork, waited. "I'm grateful for what you did yesterday, taking us in. But I meant what I said about the contract. I'll work for my keep. I won't be a burden. Didn't figure you would be. And if at any point this arrangement isn't working, you'll leave. I know. You wrote it in the contract." He pulled another forkful of hay. "Mrs. Morrison, Thea, I'm not looking to trap you here. You want to leave, you leave. But if you're staying, there's no point in us dancing around each other like we're doing something wrong. We made an agreement. That's all it is." Thea nodded, started to turn away, then stopped. "Why did you help us?" Cole drove the pitchfork into the hay bale, looked at her directly for the first time that morning. "Because Vernon Mackey was gonna do something mean. And I don't care for mean." It was not the whole truth. Thea could see that in his eyes, but it was enough truth for now. She went back to the house and made breakfast. The days fell into a pattern. Thea woke first, made coffee, made breakfast, washed the dishes, swept the floor, washed the clothes, mended what needed mending, made lunch, made dinner, washed more dishes, fell into bed exhausted. Cole woke second, fed the animals, mended fences, worked the horses, checked the cattle in the far pasture, came in for meals, spoke little, went to the barn at night. The children existed in the spaces between. Finn followed his mother everywhere for the first week, would not let her out of his sight, held her skirt when she cooked, sat at her feet when she mended. At night he had nightmares, the same one over and over. His father falling, the furnace, the screaming. Thea would hold him until he stopped shaking, and in the morning he would not remember. Willa was different. Willa did not cling. She wandered. On the 3rd day, Thea looked up from her washing to see her daughter standing at the fence of the chicken yard, watching the hens scratch and peck. Willa's lips were moving, talking, not to Thea, to the chickens. Thea set down her washing and moved closer, careful not to let Willa see her. She could hear her daughter's voice now, soft, barely more than a whisper. But there, you're a pretty one. Yes, you are. What's your name? I'll call you Goldie. Because you're yellow, like gold. A fat yellow hen hopped up onto the fence rail. Willa reached out slowly. The hen did not fly away. It cocked its head considering, then allowed itself to be touched. Willa smiled. Thea's throat tightened. She had not seen her daughter smile in 14 months. She backed away quietly and returned to her washing. But that night when Cole came in for supper, she told him, "Willa spoke today." Cole paused with his fork halfway to his mouth. "To you? To a chicken. That's a start." She named it Goldie. "Goldie's a good name." He resumed eating. "Hen's got a mind of her own. Won't roost with the others. Sleeps on top of the coop instead. Your daughter picked the right bird." After that, Willa spent every morning with the chickens. Thea would watch from the kitchen window as her daughter sat cross-legged in the dirt, talking to Goldie in that soft voice, telling her things she would not tell her mother. By the second week, Finn had discovered the horses. Cole kept 6 of them. Big animals with gentle eyes and patience for small boys who were frightened of everything. Cole put Finn on the oldest mare, a gray named Mabel, who moved like she was made of molasses, and led them around the corral, while Finn gripped the saddle horn with both hands and tried very hard not to cry. "You're doing fine," Cole said. His voice was the same tone he used with the horses, calm, sure. "Mabel won't let you fall. She's carried babies before." "I'm not a baby," Finn said. "No, you're not." Cole walked them around one more time. "You're a boy who's learning to ride. That's different." By the 3rd week, Finn was begging to go to the barn with Cole every morning. Thea would watch them walk out together, the tall man and the small boy, and feel something in her chest loosen just slightly. She was still afraid, still waiting for the moment when Cole Brennan would show himself to be like every other man she had known, kind on the surface, cruel underneath. But that moment had not come yet, and every day it did not come, she breathed a little easier. The 4th week began with a visitor. Thea was hanging laundry when she heard hoofbeats. She turned to see a woman riding up the path. Not young, maybe 40, with strong shoulders and a face that had seen weather. She dismounted without waiting for help and walked straight to Thea. "You're Mrs. Morrison." "I am." "Ruth Haldeman. I own the ranch 5 miles east." She held out her hand. Thea shook it. Ruth's grip was firm. "I came to warn you." Thea's stomach dropped. "Warn me about what?" "Vernon Mackey's been collecting signatures. A petition to have your children removed from Mr. Brennan's care." The laundry basket fell from Thea's hands. Sheets spilled into the dirt. On what grounds? "Improper living conditions. Says it's not fit for children to be living with an unmarried man and an unmarried woman under one roof. We have a contract. I work here. That's all. I know that. You know that. But Mackey's got 9 signatures already. He's pushing for a hearing with the circuit judge in about 6 weeks. Thea sat down on the porch steps because her legs would not hold her. "Who signed? Folks who owe Mackey money. Folks who are scared of him." "My husband," Ruth's voice went tight. My husband signed. I told him not to. We had words about it. But Vernon holds the note on our north pasture, and Jonas is afraid. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry for me. Be ready. When the judge comes through, if Mackey presents that petition, there'll be a hearing. And if the judge decides in Mackey's favor, they'll take my children. Yes. Thea put her face in her hands, not crying, just breathing, in and out, the way she had learned to breathe when the world became too much, and breathing was the only thing she could control. Ruth sat down beside her. Mrs. Morrison, Thea, I came here for a reason, not just to warn you. What reason? 15 years ago, I was a mail-order bride myself. Came from Ohio to marry Jonas Haldeman, who I'd never met. First year was hard, real hard. The women in town treated me like I was dirt, like I'd sold myself. Took 10 years before they stopped whispering when I walked into church. Why are you telling me this? Because I know what it's like to be judged for needing help. And because if this goes to a hearing, I'll testify for you. I'll tell the judge I've been to this ranch. I'll tell him I've seen your children healthy and fed and cared for. I'll tell him Cole Brennan is a decent man who's doing a decent thing. Thea looked at Ruth. Really looked. Saw a woman who had survived her own hard years and come through with kindness intact. Your husband signed the petition against me. I know. And that's something he and I will settle between us. But I'm not my husband. And I'm not signing any petition that tries to take children from their mother. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We haven't won anything. Ruth stood. But we're going to fight. After Ruth left, Thea sat on the porch for a long time. She heard Cole come around the side of the house, heard his boots on the steps, felt him sit down beside her. Ruth told you. Yes. I'm going to fight this, Thea. It's not your fight. It is now. She turned to look at him. He was staring out at the mountains, his jaw set in that way she was beginning to recognize, the way he looked when he had made a decision and would not be moved. Cole, if you help me, Vernon Mackey will come after you too. Let him. You don't understand. I've dealt with men like him before. They don't stop. They just find new ways to hurt you. I understand fine, and I'm still gonna help you. Why? He was quiet for so long she thought he would not answer. Then, I had a wife once, and a daughter. Thea's breath caught. Her name was Lily. Prettiest girl in Montana. Married her when I was 22 and she was 18. We had a daughter 3 years later, Rose. Named her for Lily's mother. He picked up a piece of straw from the porch, rolled it between his fingers. I was on a cattle drive when the diphtheria came through, 200 miles south. Didn't know anything was wrong until I got back 6 weeks later. They were already buried. Both of them. Church graveyard on the hill. Cole, I'm so... Lily left me a letter. Said she wasn't angry. Said she knew I had to work. But the last line, his voice cracked. Just slightly. She wrote, I wish you'd been here. Thea reached out, put her hand on his arm. He did not pull away. That was 8 years ago. For 8 years, I've been telling myself it wouldn't have mattered. that I couldn't have saved them. That diphtheria takes who it wants. But I don't know that. I'll never know. Because I wasn't here. He looked at her then. His gray eyes were wet. I can't save Lily. I can't save Rose. But I can stand between Vernon Mackey and your children. And maybe that's not the same thing. Maybe it's not enough. But it's what I've got. Thea did not know what to say. So she did not say anything. She just sat there with her hand on Cole Brennan's arm while the sun went down and the mountains turned purple and the chickens settled in for the night. Later, when the children were asleep, she found him in the barn. Cole. Yeah. Tell me about her. About Lily. And he did. He told her about the way Lily laughed loud and unself-conscious like a child. About the way she sang while she worked, making up words when she forgot the real ones. About the way she had wanted to name their daughter Petunia, until Cole convinced her that no child should go through life being called Petunia. He told her about Rose, about her first word Dada, and her first steps into the horse trough, and the way she would fall asleep in his arms, no matter how hard he tried to put her in the cradle. He told her about coming home to an empty house, about reading Lily's letter, about standing in the graveyard, wondering if he had the right to cry when he had not been there, when it mattered. And when he was done, Thea told him about Henry, about the ironworks, about the day the foreman came to their door, about identifying the body, what was left of it, about the debts she discovered afterward, about choosing between feeding her children and keeping a roof over their heads, about the moment when she realized she was not going to survive Boston, not with her children, not with her sanity, not with anything intact. That's when I answered Thomas Dalton's letter, she said. I didn't love him. I didn't even know him. I just needed a door to open. Any door. And you got a door that led to a grave. Yes. But then I got this. She gestured around the barn, at the hay, the horses, the sturdy walls. So maybe it wasn't the door I expected, but it was the one I needed. Cole was quiet for a moment, then, You think Henry would mind you being here? No. Henry would want me safe, would want the children safe. He wasn't a proud man. He was practical. Like you. Like me. They sat in comfortable silence after that, not touching, not speaking, just being. Thea realized with something like surprise that she felt safe. The next 3 weeks were the quietest Thea had known since Henry died. She woke. She worked. She ate meals with Cole and the children. She listened to Willa talk to Goldie. She watched Finn learn to brush Mabel's mane without flinching. She mended Cole's shirts and darned his socks, and learned that he liked his coffee black and his eggs fried hard. Cole never mentioned the petition. Neither did she. It sat between them like a stone in still water, visible but not disturbing the surface yet. Then, one afternoon, while Thea was shelling peas on the porch, and Willa was with the chickens and Finn was napping inside, Cole came and sat beside her. Got something to show you. He handed her a small wooden horse, beautifully carved, simple but perfect. You made this. For Finn. Thought he might like it. Thea ran her finger along the smooth wood, the detail in the mane, the careful attention to the way a horse held its head. Cole, this is too much. It's a toy. Every boy should have a toy. Finn has the horse Henry made, the one in the trunk. Then he'll have two. Cole stood. Thea, I know you don't like charity, but sometimes a man just wants to give a boy a horse he carved. That's all it is. After he left, Thea sat holding the wooden horse and trying not to cry. That night at supper, Cole gave Finn the horse. The boy's face lit up like sunrise. For me, for you. Can I name him? He's yours. Name him whatever you want. Finn studied the horse carefully. Thunder. Like your big horse. I'll call him Thunder. Thunder's a good name. Finn looked at Cole with something Thea had not seen in her son's eyes since Henry died. Trust. Thank you, Mr. Cole. You're welcome, Finn. That night, as Thea tucked the children into bed, Finn clutched both wooden horses, the one Henry had made and the one Cole had made, and whispered, Mama, is Mr. Cole gonna stay? He lives here, sweetheart. This is his house. No, I mean... Finn struggled for words. Is he gonna stay with us? Thea did not know how to answer that. So she kissed his forehead and said, We'll see, baby. We'll see. The storm came on a Tuesday 6 weeks after Ruth's first warning. Not a real storm. A different kind. The kind that wore a dress and rode a horse and carried news that made your stomach drop. Ruth Haldeman arrived at noon. Her face was grim. Mackey got his hearing. Judge Cobb's coming through next week, Wednesday. Thea had been kneading bread. Her hands were covered in flour. She looked down at them stupidly as if they belonged to someone else. Next week? Yes. And the petition's grown he's got 12 signatures now. Ruth's voice was tight. Pastor Winthrop's already agreed to testify for you. Says he's been out here twice and seen nothing improper. Dr. Whitman, too. Though he's not happy about going against Mackey. Vernon owns half the man's practice. What about you? I'll be there. I told you I would. And your husband? Ruth's mouth tightened. Jonas and I are not speaking on the subject. Cole came in from the barn, took one look at the two women's faces and said, How bad Wednesday, Judge Cobb? Vernon's got 12 signatures now. Cole's jaw clenched, but when he spoke, his voice was steady. Then we've got a week to prepare. Prepare how? Thea asked. Her voice sounded strange, high, tight. We get our own witnesses. We get documentation. We show the judge that your children are healthy and cared for and safe. And if he doesn't believe us, Cole looked at her. Then we'll deal with that when it comes. But Thea saw the fear in his eyes. The same fear she felt coiling in her own chest. They could lose. And if they lost, the county would take Finn and Willa. Put them in an orphanage, or separate them. Send Willa to one family, Finn to another. Thea would rather die. That night, after the children were asleep, Thea walked out to the barn. Cole was sitting on a hay bale mending a bridle by lamplight. I've been thinking, she said, about leaving. About taking the children and disappearing before Wednesday. Cole's hands stilled. Where would you go? I don't know. Somewhere. Anywhere. Just away from Vernon Mackey and his petition. You'd be running the rest of your life. Every town has a Vernon Mackey, and he'd find you eventually. Men like him always do. At least my children would be with me. Thea. Cole set down the bridle. Look at me. She did. You're not running. You're going to stand in front of that judge, and you're going to tell him the truth. You're going to show him your children. Let him see they're healthy, happy, loved, and you're going to win. You don't know that. No, but I know you. And I know you didn't come all this way to run when things got hard. Thea laughed. It came out broken. I came all this way because I was lied to. Maybe. But you stayed because you're brave. I'm not brave, I'm terrified. Brave people are always terrified. That's what makes them brave. He stood, walked over to her, put his hands on her shoulders. Listen to me. Whatever happens Wednesday, you're not alone in this. You understand I'm standing with you. Ruth's standing with you. Pastor Winthrop, Dr. Whitman. You've got people now. Use them. Thea looked up at him, at his gray eyes and weathered face, and the kindness he tried to hide behind gruffness. Why do you care so much? Because you remind me of Lily, not in the way you look, in the way you fight. Lily never gave up on anything, not even when the diphtheria came. She fought to the last breath. His voice roughened. You're a fighter too, Thea. Don't stop now. She did not remember moving, did not remember deciding. But suddenly her forehead was against his chest, and his arms were around her. And she was shaking, not crying, just shaking, and he was holding her steady. I'm scared, Cole. I know. I can't lose them. You won't. You can't promise that. No. But I can promise I'll do everything in my power to make sure it doesn't happen. They stood like that for a long time. Long enough for Thea's breathing to steady. Long enough for the fear to recede from a roar to a whisper. When she finally pulled back, Cole let her go immediately. Like always. Respectful. Careful. Thank you, she said. For what? For being here. I live here. You know what I mean. He did. She could see it in his eyes. The week that followed was the longest of Thea's life. Cole rode into town to speak with Pastor Winthrop. Came back with a letter the pastor had written, stating he had visited the Brennan Ranch twice and found the children well cared for and the living arrangements proper. Ruth arrived with eggs and a promise that her testimony would be strong. I've been thinking about what to say, she told Thea. About what it means to be a mail-order bride in this territory. About how we're treated. About why that's wrong. Dr. Whitman sent word that he would testify, though he asked that Cole not mention it to Vernon Mackey before the hearing. The man owns my building, the note said. I can't afford to anger him before I'm forced to. Sarah Dalton appeared on Thursday. She looked thinner than before. Her eyes were shadowed. I heard about the hearing, she said. News travels fast. Mrs. Morrison, Thea, I want to testify. Thea stared at her. You can't. If you admit to writing those letters, you could be arrested for fraud. I know. But it's my fault you're in this position. If I hadn't lied, you were trying to help your brother. I was trying to ease my own conscience. And now you're paying for it. Sarah's hands twisted in her apron. The same nervous gesture Thea had seen that first day. Let me do this. Let me make it right. Sarah, please. I've been carrying this for weeks. Let me set it down. Thea looked at the girl's face, saw the desperation there. The need to be forgiven or punished or both. All right. If you're sure. I'm sure. On Saturday, 3 days before the hearing, something happened that changed everything. Finn was playing near the woodpile while Thea hung laundry. One moment he was there. The next moment he was screaming. Thea dropped the sheet and ran. Finn was on the ground clutching his leg. His face was white. And coiled beside the woodpile rattling was a snake as thick as Thea's wrist. Don't move, Cole's voice sharp and commanding. He appeared from the barn rifle in hand. One shot. The snake stopped rattling. Cole scooped up Finn. Get in the house. Now. Inside, he laid Finn on the table. The boy's leg was already swelling. 2 puncture marks just above his ankle, red and angry. Mama, Finn whimpered. Mama, it hurts. I know, baby, I know. Thea's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold him. Cole was already moving. Knife, whiskey, clean cloth. Hold him down. Thea did. Cole cut into the wound quick, sure. Finn screamed. Cole pressed his mouth to the cut, sucked spat blood into the basin. Did it again. Again. Willa, Cole shouted. Get in here. Willa appeared in the doorway, eyes wide with fear. I need you to run to the Haldeman Ranch, fast as you can. Tell Mrs. Ruth we need Dr. Whitman. Can you do that? Willa nodded. Ran. For the next hour, Thea held her son while he shook and burned and cried for his father. Cole kept the wound open, kept it bleeding, kept talking to Finn in that steady voice. You're doing good, son. Real good. Doc's coming. He'll fix you up. Am I going to die? Finn's voice was so small. Like Papa. No. Promise. I promise. It was afternoon when Dr. Whitman arrived. He looked at the wound, at Cole, at Thea. You did right, he said. Got most of the poison out. Boy's got a fighting chance. He cleaned the wound, bandaged it, left powders for the fever, and instructions to keep Finn still. Watch him tonight. If the fever gets worse, send for me. But I think he'll pull through. After the doctor left, Thea sat by Finn's bedside. Did not leave. Did not sleep. Just watched her son breathe and prayed to a God she was no longer sure was listening. Cole sat with her. Did not speak. Just sat. Sometime in the darkest part of night, Finn's fever broke. His eyes opened. Mama. Right here, baby. Where's Mr. Cole? I'm here too, Finn. You saved me. You did most of it yourself. You're tough. Like Mama. Cole glanced at Thea. Something passed between them. Something that had no name yet but felt like the beginning of one. Yeah, Cole said. Like your mama. On Sunday, Pastor Winthrop came to the ranch, not to check on Finn, though he did that too, to deliver news. Dr. Whitman's prepared a written statement about the snake bite, about the quality of care Finn received, about the condition he found both children in. He's going to present it at the hearing. That's good, Thea said. There's more. Vernon Mackey came to see me yesterday. Thea's stomach clenched. He tried to get me to withdraw my support. Said it would be better for the church if I stayed neutral. And I told him I'd see him in hell first. Pastor Winthrop's mouth was grim. Mrs. Morrison, I've been a coward about a lot of things in my life. But I won't be a coward about this. That man is trying to take children from their mother for no reason except spite. And I won't let him do it without a fight. On Monday, Ruth brought news that her husband had tried to remove his name from the petition. Mackey had refused, said a signature is a signature. Once it's given, it can't be taken back. Ruth's voice was bitter. Jonas is ashamed, as he should be. On Tuesday, the day before the hearing, Sarah Dalton came one last time. I just wanted to say, whatever happens tomorrow, I'm grateful you gave me the chance to make this right. Sarah, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do. That night, Thea could not sleep. She lay in bed listening to her children breathe Finn on the mend. Willa curled beside him and tried to imagine what tomorrow would bring. At some point, she got up and walked outside. The air was cold. Fall was coming. Soon it would be winter. Cole was sitting on the porch steps, same as she'd found him that first night. Couldn't sleep either, he said. No. Mind if I say something? Go ahead. Tomorrow when you stand in front of that judge, you remember what you told me that first night about not taking charity. I remember. You were right to say that. But Thea, tomorrow's not about pride. It's about your children. So if you need to ask for help, you ask. If you need to show weakness, you show it. Whatever it takes to win, you do it. You understand. I understand. Good. He stood. I'm going to testify tomorrow. I'm going to tell that judge exactly what kind of mother you are. And I'm going to tell him that any man who tries to take your children is going to have to go through me first. Thea looked up at him, at this man who had given her work when no one else would, who had carved a toy for her son, who had saved Finn's life, who was willing to fight Vernon Mackey for no reason except that it was right. Cole, yeah, if we lose tomorrow, we won't. But if we do, I need you to promise me something. What? Promise me you'll tell my children that I fought, that I didn't give up, that I loved them more than anything in this world. Cole's expression softened. Thea, promise me. I promise. But you're going to tell them yourself. 30 years from now, when they're grown and have children of their own. Thea wanted to believe him. Wanted it so badly it hurt. Wednesday came too soon and not soon enough. They rode to town in Cole's wagon, Thea and the children and Cole. Ruth followed on horseback. Sarah met them at the edge of town, her face pale but determined. The hearing was held in the back room of Mackey's general store. There was no courthouse in Stillwater. The circuit judge used whatever space was available. Judge Harlan Cobb was 62, gray-haired, with the kind of face that had seen everything and been surprised by nothing. He sat behind a makeshift bench, really just 2 tables pushed together, and looked at the assembled crowd with weary patience. Vernon Mackey sat in the front row, his petition in hand. Behind him, the 12 men who had signed. Thea recognized some of them. Shop owners, ranchers, men who probably had nothing against her personally, but who owed Mackey money or favors or fear. On the other side sat Pastor Winthrop, Dr. Whitman, Ruth Haldeman, and Sarah Dalton. And in the middle, on a bench by themselves, sat Thea and her children. "All right," Judge Cobb said. "Let's get started." Vernon Mackey stood, read his petition aloud. His voice was calm, reasonable. He spoke about community standards, about the welfare of children, about the unseemly nature of an unmarried woman living with an unmarried man. He did not mention that he wanted his money. He did not have to. When he finished, the judge looked at Thea. "Mrs. Morrison, do you have anything to say?" Thea stood. Her legs were steady. Her voice was clear. "Your Honor, I came to Montana Territory as a mail-order bride. I came in good faith, believing I had a future here. When I arrived, I discovered the man I came to marry was dead. I was left with 2 children, no money, and nowhere to go." She paused, breathed, continued. "Mr. Brennan offered me work, not charity, work. I have a written contract stating the terms. I cook, I clean, I mend. I earn my wages. My children are fed. They are clothed. They are safe. If Mr. Mackey or anyone else believes otherwise, they are welcome to examine them." Judge Cobb leaned forward. "Mrs. Morrison, you understand the concern here is not about whether your children are fed. It's about the propriety of the arrangement. With respect, Your Honor, propriety is a luxury. My children don't eat propriety. They don't sleep under propriety. They need food and shelter and safety. Mr. Brennan has provided those things in exchange for honest work. If that's improper, then I don't understand what proper means." The room was silent. Then Cole stood. "Your Honor, if I may." "Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Morrison sleeps in the main house with her children. I sleep in the barn. Have since the day they arrived. Any man in this town will tell you I'm not a liar. If I say nothing improper has happened under my roof, nothing improper has happened." Pastor Winthrop stood next. "Your Honor, I've visited the Brennan Ranch twice. I've seen the children. They're healthy. Happy. The girl who has not spoken for over a year has started talking again. The boy who was terrified of everything is learning to ride horses. If that's not evidence of good care, I don't know what is." Dr. Whitman stood, presented his written statement about Finn's snakebite. "The boy received immediate and appropriate care. He's recovering well. Mrs. Morrison has shown herself to be a competent and caring mother." Ruth Haldeman stood. "Your Honor, I was a mail-order bride myself. I know what it's like to be judged for seeking a better life. I know what it's like to have people assume the worst about you. Mrs. Morrison is doing the best she can in difficult circumstances. She deserves our help, not our condemnation." Then Sarah Dalton stood. The room went very still. "Your Honor, I have a confession to make." Thea's heart stopped. "My name is Sarah Dalton. Thomas Dalton was my brother. The letters Mrs. Morrison received were not written by my brother. They were written by me. A murmur ran through the room. Mackie leaned forward, sensing blood in the water. I deceived Mrs. Morrison. I led her to believe my brother wanted a wife when in truth, he was dying and could not write. It was wrong of me, deeply wrong, and I am prepared to accept whatever legal consequences come from that confession. Judge Cobb's eyebrows rose. You understand you could be charged with fraud? Yes, sir. Then why confess? Because Mrs. Morrison has done nothing wrong. She came here in good faith. She stayed in good faith. And now she's being punished for my sin. That's not right. If anyone should be on trial here, it's me, not her. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at Mackie. Mr. Mackie, you've heard the testimony. You've heard Miss Dalton's confession. Do you still wish to proceed with this petition? Mackie stood. His face was red. Your Honor, the confession doesn't change the facts. Mrs. Morrison is living with an unmarried man. In separate quarters, the judge interrupted, as attested by Mr. Brennan and Pastor Winthrop. The appearance of impropriety is not the same as impropriety itself. Judge Cobb shuffled his papers. Mr. Mackie, I've been riding this circuit for 20 years. I've seen a lot of petitions. Most of them have merit. This one does not. Your Honor, I'm not finished. Mrs. Morrison has a job. She has a contract. Her children are healthy and well cared for as attested by both a doctor and a pastor. The only thing she lacks is a wedding ring. And last I checked, being unmarried is not a crime in the Montana Territory. The judge looked at Thea. Mrs. Morrison, this petition is denied. Your children will remain in your care. Anyone who wishes to challenge that decision can take it up with the territorial court in Helena. He banged his gavel. We're done here. The room erupted. Vernon Mackie was on his feet, red-faced, shouting something about appeals and injustice. But Thea did not hear him. She was on her knees, pulling Finn and Willa into her arms, holding them so tight they squeaked in protest. Mama, Finn said, you're squishing me. I know, baby, I'm sorry. I can't. She could not finish the sentence, could not breathe, could only hold them and thank God or fate or whatever force had let her keep them. Cole's hand on her shoulder. Steady. Warm. Come on. Let's get out of here. They walked out of Vernon Mackie's store into the clean Montana sunlight. Ruth was crying. Sarah was crying. Even Pastor Winthrop looked misty-eyed. But Thea was not crying. She was standing in the middle of the street with her children beside her, and Cole Brennan at her back. And for the first time since Henry died, she felt like she could breathe all the way down to the bottom of her lungs. They had won. On the ride home, Finn fell asleep against Thea's side. Willa held her mother's hand and watched the mountains go by. Cole drove in silence, but after they had gone a few miles, he spoke. Thea, yes, that thing you said about not understanding what proper means, that was good. I meant it. I know you did. That's why it was good. When they reached the ranch, Cole helped the children down from the wagon, carried Finn inside when the boy proved too sleepy to walk. came back out to find Thea still standing by the wagon looking at the house. "You all right?" "I think so. I'm not sure yet." "Fair enough. It was a long day." "Cole." "Yeah. What happens now?" He looked at her. Really looked. "What do you want to happen?" Thea did not answer. She did not know the answer yet. But she knew that for the first time in 14 months, the future was not something to be feared. It was something that just might be worth building. 6 weeks after the hearing, Clara Shipley sent a letter. Thea found it waiting on the porch when she came back from hanging laundry. Her name written in Clara's careful script. Inside 2 pages in that same deliberate hand. "Thea, got some news that concerns you. Thomas Dalton did leave a will after all. Lawyer found it last week in the county records. Turns out he left his house to my future wife should she arrive before my death or after. Bank seized the house illegally. You've got claim to it. Lawyer says you need to live in it 1 year to prove you're settling permanent, not just claiming for profit. After that, it's yours free and clear. Thought you should know. Clara." Thea read the letter twice. Then she folded it carefully and put it in her apron pocket. That evening, after the children were asleep, she showed it to Cole. He read it by lamplight. His face showed nothing. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "I don't know yet. It's a house, Thea. Your own house. I know what it is. You could be independent. Really independent. Not working for anyone." "I know that too." Cole set the letter down. "You should take it." "Why?" "Because it's yours. Because you earned it just by getting on that train and coming here. Because..." He stopped. Started again. "Because you should have something that's just yours, that nobody can take away." Thea looked at him across the table, at this man who had given her work when she needed it, who had stood with her against Vernon Mackey, who had carved a toy for her son and saved that same son's life and asked for nothing in return. "What if I don't want to leave?" Cole's expression shifted. Something opened in his eyes, something that looked like hope. "Is that what you're saying, that you want to stay?" "I'm saying I need to think." She thought for 3 days. On the first day, she walked to town and found the lawyer a thin man named Pemberton with spectacles that sat crooked on his nose. He confirmed everything Clara had written. The house was legally Thea's. She just needed to live in it for 1 year to prove residency. "What happens if I don't?" Thea asked. "House goes to public auction. You'd get nothing." On the second day, she visited Sarah Dalton. Found the girl washing clothes in a tub behind her borrowed house. "Did you know?" Thea asked. "About the will?" Sarah's hands stilled in the water. "No, Thomas never said. But I'm glad. You deserve something good." "Do I?" "Yes." Sarah met her eyes. "You came all this way on faith. Faith in my brother. Faith in a future. That faith should count for something." On the third day, Thea sat on the porch of Cole's ranch and watched her children. Finn was in the corral with Cole learning to saddle Mabel. He was laughing. Actually laughing. A sound she had not heard since before the furnace. Willa was in the chicken yard with Goldie, talking. Full sentences now. She had even spoken to Thea yesterday just 2 words, "Thank you," when Thea gave her breakfast, but it had been enough to make Thea's throat close. This place had given her children back to her, not just their bodies, their spirits. How could she take them away from that? But how could she stay without knowing if she was staying because she wanted to or because she had nowhere else to go? That night after supper, she told Cole what she had decided. "I'm going to take the house." His face went carefully blank. "All right. But not to leave. To see if I can." "Can what?" "Live alone. Really alone. Support myself. Be independent." She twisted her hands in her apron. "I need to know I'm capable of it, Cole. I need to know that if I stay here, it's because I choose to, not because I have to." "How long?" 6 months. The lawyer says I need a year, but 6 months should be enough to know. And after 6 months, I'll make a decision about where I want to be, who I want to be." Cole was quiet for a long time. Then, "What about the children?" "They'll come with me. They're happy here. I know. But they're my children. Where I go, they go." Cole nodded slowly. "When do you leave?" "End of the week." "That's soon. If I wait, I'll lose my nerve." Another silence. Then Cole stood, walked to the window, stood looking out at the mountains with his hands in his pockets. "Thea, before you go, I need to ask you something." "What?" He turned to face her. His gray eyes were steady, serious. "If I asked you to marry me, what would you say?" Thea's breath caught. "Cole, I'm not asking, not yet. I just need to know if it's something you'd consider. After the 6 months, if you came back, and if I don't come back, then I'll know that's your answer." Thea looked at him, at this good, quiet man who had never once demanded anything from her, who had given her space and time and patience. "Ask me in 6 months," she said, "when I know my own mind." Fair enough. On Saturday, Cole drove Thea and the children into town, helped them carry their belongings into the small adobe house that had belonged to Thomas Dalton. It was sparse inside. 1 room serving as kitchen and living space. 1 bedroom barely big enough for a bed. But it had a roof and 4 walls and a door that locked. It was hers. Cole set down the last trunk. "You need anything, you send word." "I will. I mean it, Thea. Anything." "I know." He looked at her. She looked at him. There were things that needed to be said, but neither of them knew how to say them. Finally, Cole just tipped his hat to Willa and Finn. "You two take care of your mama, you hear?" "Yes, sir," Finn said. Willa nodded. Then, surprising everyone, she ran to Cole and hugged his legs. He stood there awkwardly for a moment before his hand came down to rest on her hair. "You come visit Mabel any time you want, Miss Willa." She nodded against his legs, let go, ran back to her mother. Then Cole was gone and Thea stood in the doorway of her own house with her children beside her, feeling something she had not felt since Henry died. Terrified. The first month was the hardest. Thea had money, the $23 from Sarah plus the wages Cole had paid her. But money ran out fast when you had 2 children to feed. She needed work. She started small. Put up a notice at the general store, sewing and mending. Reasonable rates. Mr. Brenner let her post it without comment. Progress, she supposed. Her first customer was Ruth Haldeman, who brought a pile of shirts that needed new buttons. Jonas is hard on his clothes, Ruth said. Loses buttons like some men lose their sense. Her second customer was Pastor Winthrop's wife, who wanted a dress let out. The Lord has blessed me with prosperity, she said, patting her expanding waistline, which is another way of saying I've gotten fat. Slowly, a few more came. A rancher's wife who needed curtains hemmed. A widow who wanted a quilt repaired. Women who might not invite Thea to church socials, but who needed work done and would pay her to do it. By the end of the first month, Thea had earned enough to buy flour and beans and a chicken from the market. Not prosperity, but survival. The second month brought winter's first hint. The nights grew colder. Thea woke one morning to frost on the windows. The stove ate through firewood faster than she could afford to buy it. She started rising before dawn to gather kindling from the scrub behind the house. Taught Finn to stack it. Taught Willa to bank the fire at night so they would not wake to ice in the water bucket. They managed. In the third month, Thea opened a small shop in the front room of the house. A single table, a chair, a sign in the window, Morrison Tailoring. It was ambitious, probably foolish, but it worked. Women started coming not just for mending, but for new dresses. Simple things. Work dresses. Sunday dresses. Nothing fancy, but enough. By the fourth month, Thea had steady customers. She hired Sarah Dalton to help with the simpler work, basic hemming button sewing. Paid her in meals and what little cash she could spare. They were surviving. More than surviving. They were building something. But it was lonely. Finn asked about Cole every day. When can we visit the ranch, Mama? When can I see Mabel? Willa wrote on her slate. I miss Goldie. And Thea, lying awake in the dark while her children slept, missed Cole Brennan more than she had any right to. The fifth month began with disaster. A spring storm rolled in early, bringing hail and wind and rain that found every weakness in the old adobe house. The roof, which had been sound enough for summer, proved itself a sieve. Water poured through the bedroom ceiling, soaked the bed, soaked everything. Thea moved the children to the front room, tried to stop the leak with rags and buckets, failed. By morning, the bedroom was ruined, the ceiling sagging, water damage spreading down the walls. Thea stood looking at it and felt the same despair she had felt on the platform in Stillwater that first day. The same sense that no matter how hard she fought, the world would win. Mama, Finn's voice was small. What are we going to do? Thea straightened her spine. We're going to fix it. She went to see the carpenter, a gruff man named Hobbs, who charged $8 to fix a roof. She had $5. Can you do half now? She asked. I'll pay the rest when I earn it. No credit, cash only. But my children are sleeping in water. Not my problem, ma'am. Thea walked home in the rain and tried not to cry. That afternoon, Clara Shipley appeared at her door with a hammer and a box of nails. Heard you got roof trouble. Clara, I can't pay you. Did I ask for pay? Get a ladder. They worked until dark. Clara on the roof driving nails with the efficiency of someone who had built half of Stillwater by hand. Thea on the ground passing up shingles and holding the ladder steady. When they finished, Clara climbed down and surveyed their work. It'll do till you can hire Hobbs proper. But Thea, I know, asking for help isn't weakness. I know that too. Do you? Clara's eyes were sharp. Because from where I'm standing, you look like someone who's so afraid of needing people that you'd rather drown than ask for a bucket. Thea started to protest. Stopped. Because Clara was right. I just wanted to prove I could do it myself, she said quietly. You have proved it. You've been doing it for 5 months. You've kept your children fed and clothed and safe. You've built a business from nothing. That's enough proving, Thea. That's more than enough. That night, Thea sat on her patched roof and looked at the stars. The same stars she had seen from Cole's porch. The same stars she had seen from the storage room at the station. The same stars that had been there all along, whether she was alone or not. And she realized something. She could survive alone. She had proven that. But she did not want to. The 6th month began with a letter. Thea sat down at her table and wrote Cole. I think I'm ready. Thea. She sent it with a rider heading north. Did not know if Cole would respond. Did not know what she would do if he did not. 3 days later, he appeared at her door. He looked the same. Gray eyes, weathered face, hat in his hands. You wrote, he said. I did. What are you ready for? Thea took a breath. Let it out. Ask me. Cole's expression shifted. Something like relief. Something like fear. You mean it? Ask me, Cole. He got down on one knee right there on her doorstep, in front of God and the neighbors and anyone who happened to be walking past. Thea Morrison, will you marry me? Thea looked down at him. At this man who had waited 6 months without asking, who had given her space to figure out her own mind, who was kneeling in the dirt because he wanted her, not because he needed her, but because he wanted her. Yes. Cole stood, reached for her hand, stopped himself. You're sure? I'm sure. You're not saying yes because you need a roof or food or... Cole. She took his hand, put it against her cheek. I'm saying yes because I spent 6 months proving I don't need you. And then I realized I want you anyway. Is that clear enough? His smile was slow, rare, beautiful. Yeah, that's clear enough. They were married 3 weeks later. Pastor Winthrop performed the ceremony in the small church on the hill, the same church where Lily and Rose were buried. Cole had asked Thea if that bothered her. Should it? She asked. Some women wouldn't want to marry a man inside of his first wife's grave. Lily was part of your life. She made you who you are. I'm not threatened by that. The church was full. Ruth Haldeman stood as witness. Sarah Dalton wept through the entire service. Clara Shipley sat in the back and looked satisfied, as if she had planned the whole thing. Even Vernon Mackey attended, though he left before the end. Finn carried the rings on a pillow Clara had sewn. Willa stood beside her mother in a new dress Ruth had made, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. When Pastor Winthrop said, You may kiss your bride." Cole leaned down and kissed Thea gently, carefully, like she was something precious. Afterward, there was a meal at Ruth's ranch. Roast beef and potatoes and pie. Children running wild in the yard. Adults talking and laughing and drinking coffee that was too strong. Jonas Haldeman approached Thea hesitantly. "Mrs. Brennan, I want to apologize for signing that petition. It was cowardly." "It's forgotten," Thea said. "Ruth says you're a better woman than I deserve to know." Ruth's right about most things. The party lasted until dark. Then Cole lifted Thea into the wagon, his wife now not his employee, and they drove home under stars that seemed brighter than before. The children fell asleep in the wagon bed. Cole and Thea rode in silence. Finally, Cole spoke. "You nervous?" "A little." "Me too." "Really? I haven't been married in 8 years, Thea. I'm out of practice." She laughed. Actually laughed. "I think we'll figure it out." When they reached the ranch, Cole carried Finn inside. Thea carried Willa. They tucked both children into the same bed they had slept in 6 months ago. Then Cole and Thea stood in the main room, suddenly awkward. Newlyweds who had known each other for months, but were starting something entirely new. "I put your things in my room," Cole said. "Our room, I mean." "All right." "But if you'd rather," Thea kissed him, cut off whatever he was about to say. When she pulled back, his eyes were wide. "Cole Brennan, we're married. We're going to share a room. We're going to share a life. And we're going to stop being so damn polite about it." He grinned. "Yes, ma'am." That night, lying in bed beside her new husband, Thea thought about the journey that had brought her here. The train, the empty platform, the lies and the truth and the hard months in between. She thought about Henry buried in Boston, hoped he would understand. She thought about Lily buried on the hill, hoped she would too. And then she stopped thinking and just felt Cole's warmth beside her. The sound of her children breathing in the next room. The solid walls of a home that was hers, not because she needed it, but because she had chosen it. 5 years later. The ranch had grown. Cole had bought the adjacent property when old man Hendricks died. More pasture, more cattle, more work. But there were also more hands to do it. 2 hired men lived in the bunkhouse Cole had built. Good men, steady. And there was another child. Rose Brennan, named for the daughter Cole had lost, was 3 years old, with her mother's dark hair and her father's gray eyes. She followed Willa everywhere, chattering in the way 3-year-olds do, asking questions that had no answers. Finn, now 10, worked alongside Cole. He was still slight for his age, but strong, capable. He could rope a calf and mend a fence and ride Mabel without a lead rope. Willa, 12, helped Thea with the household work, but she also had a notebook she filled with writing. Stories, she said, about people and places and things that might have been. "She's got a gift," Pastor Winthrop said one Sunday after service. "Real talent. You should send her to school in Helena when she's older." Thea and Cole had talked about it, decided they would. When the time came, the house Thomas Dalton had left her, the house Thea had lived in for 6 months, now served as a school. Not a formal school, just a place where Thea and Clara taught women who wanted to learn sewing or reading or accounting. 3 days a week, women came. Some young, some old, some married, some alone. Thea taught them the skills she had learned in Boston and the skills she had learned in Montana. How to make a dollar stretch, how to read a contract, how to say no to men who thought a woman's desperation was an invitation. Sarah Dalton worked there too, teaching the basic sewing classes. She had married a quiet widower from the next county 2 years back, a kind man who asked little and gave much. She wrote to Thea once a month, and every letter began the same way. Thank you for forgiving me. Thank you for... Clara had wanted to name it Morrison School. Thea had refused. Call it what it is. A place for women who need help. They called it the Stillwater Women's Workshop. It was not much, but it was something. One evening in late summer, Cole and Thea sat on the porch while the children played in the yard. Rose was trying to catch Goldie, who had grown fat and slow with age, but could still outmaneuver a 3-year-old. Willa was reading. Finn was practicing his roping on a fence post. You ever regret it? Cole asked. Regret what? Coming to Montana? Marrying a man you didn't know? Any of it. Thea thought about it. Really thought. I regret the lies that brought me here. I regret that Thomas Dalton died alone. I regret that Sarah felt she had to deceive me. She paused. But I don't regret getting on that train. I don't regret staying. And I don't regret you. Cole took her hand, laced his fingers through hers. Good. Because I don't regret you either. They sat in comfortable silence, watched their children, watched the sun go down behind the mountains. Cole. Yeah. Thank you. For what? For asking me twice. For letting me say no the first time. For understanding why I needed to. You needed to know you were choosing me, not just accepting rescue. Yes. That's not something to thank me for, Thea. That's just treating you like a person. You'd be surprised how rare that is. Another silence. Then Rose shrieked with delight because she had finally caught Goldie. Willa looked up from her book to laugh. Finn abandoned his rope to help his little sister hold the squirming hen. And Thea Morrison Brennan sat on her porch beside her husband and felt something she had not felt since before Henry died. Complete. 30 years later, the ranch looked different now. Bigger. More prosperous. The house had been expanded. The barn rebuilt. The land stretched farther than Cole had ever imagined owning. But Cole Brennan at 70 felt old. He sat on the porch in the chair he had built for himself, wide enough for his spreading frame with arms he could grip when his knees got stubborn, and watched his grandchildren play in the yard. Finn's children, 3 of them, wild as wolves and twice as loud. Willa's children were at school in Helena. She had married a teacher. They had 2 girls who wrote stories like their mother. Rose had married young. Too young, Thea had said. But the boy man now was good to her. They had a ranch of their own 20 miles south. 4 children. Another on the way. Thea appeared in the doorway. 58 years old. Hair more gray than brown. Lines around her eyes and mouth. Still beautiful. Still strong. Finn's here, she said. I see him. Finn walked up the porch steps. 35 years old. Foreman of the ranch now. He did most of the heavy work while Cole supervised and pretended not to mind that his body could not do what it once had. Pa got a wire from Helena. Willa's coming home next week, bringing the girls. She say why? Said she missed us. That enough reason? Cole smiled. More than enough. After Finn left, Thea sat down beside Cole. They rocked in silence for a while, watching the grandchildren chase chickens that were descended from Goldie, who had died of old age 10 years ago. You thinking about her? Thea asked. Who? Lily. Cole glanced at his wife. How'd you know? Because I'm thinking about Henry. Yeah. Wondering if he'd approve of how things turned out. And I think he would. He was a practical man. He'd want me safe. Want the children raised proper. Want me happy. She paused. I am happy, Cole. You know that. I know. Are you? He took her hand. The same hand he had taken on their wedding day. Lined now. Spotted with age. But still Thea's hand. Every damn day. They rocked in silence some more. Then Willa's oldest granddaughter, 10 years old, visiting for the summer, came running up. Grandma Thea, tell us the story again. Which story, honey? The one about how you came to Montana. About the train and the lies and how Grandpa saved you. Thea laughed. Your grandpa didn't save me. I saved myself. But he helped. Yes, he helped. Tell it again. So Thea told the story. The parts she always told. The train, the empty platform, the job offer, the hearing, the wedding. She did not tell the parts that were too hard. The hunger, the fear, the nights when she thought she would lose everything. Those parts were hers to keep. When she finished, the girl asked, Grandma, do you ever wish you'd stayed in Boston? Thea looked at Cole, at the ranch, at the mountains in the distance, at the grandchildren playing in the yard. No, sweetheart, I don't. Not even a little, not even a little. The girl ran off, satisfied. Thea watched her go. You know what's funny, she said. What? That letter, the one from Sarah that brought me here. I kept it all these years. I know. I've seen it in the drawer. Sometimes I take it out and read it. The lies, the apology, the $23. She smiled. Best $23 I ever received. Why's that? Because it bought me a ticket to somewhere better. Cole was quiet for a moment. Then, the lies brought you here, Thea. But the truth is what made you stay. What truth? That you were strong enough to build a life from nothing. That you were brave enough to stand up to men like Vernon Mackey. That you were smart enough to know the difference between needing someone and choosing them. Thea leaned her head on his shoulder. We did good, didn't we? We did real good. As the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple, Thea Morrison Brennan sat beside her husband on the porch of the ranch that had become home. She thought about the girl she had been, 28 years old, widowed, desperate, standing on a train platform with 2 children and a trunk full of lies. She thought about the woman she had become, strong, capable, loved. and she realized that sometimes the journey you did not plan becomes the journey you were meant to take. "Cole," she said softly. "Yeah. If Sarah hadn't written those letters, I never would have come here. I know. We never would have met. I know that too." Do you ever wonder what would have happened if she'd told the truth from the start? Cole thought about it. Nope. Why not? Because wondering about what might have been is a waste of time when what has turned out this good. Thea smiled, closed her eyes, felt the evening breeze on her face and her husband's warmth beside her, and the sound of her grandchildren laughing in the distance. "You're right," she whispered. Inside the house, on the shelf beside the bed, where Thea and Cole had slept for 30 years, sat a wooden box. Inside that box, carefully preserved, were the things Thea had carried with her from Boston. A Bible, a wooden horse Henry had carved, a contract written in her own hand, and a letter. Yellowed now, creased from being folded and unfolded 1,000 times. The letter that had started everything. "Mrs. Morrison, I am Sarah Dalton, sister to Thomas. My brother passed from this life on the 19th of August. Some journeys begin with a lie, but the truth is where we arrive. And sometimes, just sometimes, the lie becomes the truth, and the truth becomes a home, and the home becomes a life worth living." The mountains stood silent in the gathering dark. The stars began to appear one by one like candles being lit in a vast room, and on the porch of the Brennan Ranch, an old man and an old woman rocked in their chairs and held hands and watched the day end, together. The way they had faced everything for 30 years, together. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.